Hello, wealth seekers. Welcome to another episode of The Wealth Within Us. Today I have with me Shelley Maley, and she is owner and CEO of Dreamcatcher Career Coaching. And I'm going to let her introduce herself, but we're going to talk about confidence today. And I recently went to one of her women's confidence workshops, which was amazing. And I actually took my daughter with me, so I thought that was super good for her as well. So I welcome you, Shelley. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on with me.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I'm really glad to be here. As you stated, I'm the owner of Dreamcatcher Career Coaching. I've been a career coach for 9 years, and I recently started my business in April of 2021. And one of my most recent passions has become women's confidence. So I started offering these confidence workshops, and you just attended one last week. Thank you for being there.
Absolutely. It was wonderful.
Thank you. So I've really found through conversations with women that seems to be an overarching theme that we all seem to struggle with: the imposter syndrome, the self-limiting beliefs, the low self-esteem. So I've decided to make that the cause I'm championing, and I'll continue offering workshops because I think there's a real big need for women to hear the message that I have to give and provide some tips on how we can improve our self-esteem and self-confidence.
Absolutely. And one of the things we had talked about was how confidence actually improves your wealth, and not only your wealth, but your health as well. And if you don't mind sharing, I actually really loved your story of sort of how you got here, like where you were and how you got to owning your own career coaching business.
Okay. So I actually knew in my heart that I would own my own business someday. I knew it from the time I graduated from college. And over the years, the dream kind of changed as to what type of business I wanted to own. But I ended up working in management, and then I got into human resources, and I worked in that field for 10 years. I actually ended up getting very burned out in human resources. And I had a young child at the time. So from the time she was 1 until the time she was 8, I really missed pretty much everything that you get to experience with a young child. My husband did all the drop off and pick up from daycare. I would get home at like 6:30 or 7 o'clock at night. And, I was never able to go to any of her class parties. I was never able to attend any school plays. I really missed everything for those 7 years.
And I think a lot of people can relate to that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Working moms, especially, we can definitely relate. So I ended up developing a chronic migraine condition. It was called intractable migraine, which means that it's a migraine that never goes away. I had that migraine for 3 years. And yeah, I was really sick. I lost 30 pounds in a year. Wow. And, I ended up just really unable to continue in that role. So I ended up taking a medical leave of absence to try to get my health under control. I was seeing a neurologist, I was seeing a chiropractor, I was seeing a therapist, because there was a lot of anxiety and depression that came along with being ill and being burned out, and feeling guilty about not being there to be a really good mom for my kid.
And I think as women, we all feel so much guilt. And I think that guilt can definitely play on our confidence as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So at the time I was, I really was starting to develop an interest in career coaching as I was thinking about what I wanted to do next. And then, when I was out on my leave of absence, I really started doing a lot of really hardcore thinking about what is my next move. Felt really unsure about what to do next. So I ended up looking into hiring a career coach. And the more I read about them and the more I understood what a career coach does, I realized, wait a minute, you have the expertise and the experience to become a career coach. And it was very exciting for me I felt like I really figured out my next move. And I told my husband I want to start this business, and he really put the brakes on it. He said, "You need to get your health under control first. This
Yeah,
isn't
that
the right
makes sense.
time." Yeah, he was right. I mean, at the time I didn't like what he was saying,
Yeah.
but he ended up being right. And so we kind of put the brakes on that dream. And um, lo and behold, as I was recuperating, and then I eventually decided I wasn't able to go back to that human resources
Mm.
position, I ended up having contact. Someone had reached out to me on LinkedIn. She was the director of career development at Lehigh Carbon Community College. And she said, "Hey, I'll be posting a part-time career coach position on Monday. If you're interested, send me your resume." And it was just complete serendipity that it happened that way, because that's what I wanted to do next. And here it falls into my lap.
Yeah, you put it out to the universe delivered.
Exactly, exactly. So I was just so excited, and I interviewed for the position, and I got the job, and I worked there as a career coach for 8 years. And that last year that I was there, I started the business and decided, that that was the right time. I was in the right frame of mind,
Mhm.
and I felt confident because I had some of that actual career coaching experience under my
Yeah.
belt.
What a
So,
perfect position to just glide right into your own business.
right, exactly. So I started the business in 2021, and continued to work at L-Tri-C for another year. And then ultimately I resigned from that position in May of 2022 so I could focus full time on the Dreamcatcher career coaching.
So perfect. And now you get to be here with me and all of us.
Yeah, exactly.
So in the confidence workshop that you had done, some of the statistics I found, it was like when you said them, I found them shocking. And then after I thought about it, I was like, yeah. So can you go over just a few of those statistics, especially the ones that might have shocked you as well?
Yeah, the one that's really sticks out in my mind is that 79% of women of admit to suffering low self-confidence in the workplace.
That's a
That's the one that
high
really spoke
number.
volumes. Exactly. It speaks volumes as to
Yes.
what we're experiencing, those feelings that we're
Mhm.
having about our own abilities. And so that's the one that really sticks out.
I think the one that stuck out to me second to that one was about women applying for jobs with the qualifications. I forget what it was. You said
Oh,
women, that one. I thought
yeah,
that one
that
was really
one.
good.
That's another good one.
Yeah.
So 100%, well, 100% of women will not apply to a job if they don't meet every single qualification in that job posting. Whereas men, they will apply if they meet 60% of the qualifications. So that just goes to show that we're just kind of counting ourselves out,
Yeah.
not even trying to apply for these positions. So, we really need to stop doing that, because it doesn't hold a man back at all.
No, no. And I find it so true. And I think people can relate to that as well. I remember looking at job postings and even recently for I mean, I'm doing my own thing, but every once in a while I'll go and look and see what's available for, remote jobs. And I have to say it really struck me when you had said that statistic. Yeah, if I don't even meet just one or two of those qualifications, I won't even apply, which is nuts.
Oh, I've done it. I've absolutely done it. I mean, in my past, I know for sure. Oh, well, I don't have 5 years of experience in XYZ, so I can't apply.
Yeah.
And we're just missing out on so many opportunities.
Yeah, and the ability to learn and grow our own skills. So if it's part of a job of our own skill set, then we can probably take on those skills, like
Right.
if we're looking for a job already and that's one of the skills and we don't have it, that's
Mhm.
probably something we could have picked up anyway, pretty easily, I would imagine.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. I mean, a lot of times it might be a particular software that they're asking you
Mhm.
to know how to navigate. Well, I mean, so many of the different softwares out there are similar. So if you know how to use,
True.
um, you know, Salesforce, then you can very easily figure out another software type like
Yeah,
that,
something
similar to
similar.
that.
Exactly.
But we don't think of it that way. We just don't have the confidence and self-assurance that we should even put our name in the hat, and that's not good.
No, and it's kind of sad, actually.
Yeah, it is very sad.
So now that we kind of have a little bit, how do we get our confidence? Like, how do we get this confidence? I don't even want to say back, because I think sometimes we've never had it. I think in certain areas, we're always real confident in the things that we can do really, really well. And
Mhm.
I think we're not as confident in the things that we struggle with. But
Right,
I find we also struggle with confidence among our peers
right.
and like people who are delegating, like higher ups or whatever you want to call them.
Mhm. Yeah, we do a lot of comparing.
Mm,
Um,
big
you
time.
know, I mean, I find myself doing that. I'll see something that another career coach is doing, and I think, well, gosh, I'm not doing that yet. You know, comparison is truly the thief of what did they say? Comparison is the thief of joy, I think is the
Oh,
phrase.
I think you're right. It is, and it's pervasive, and sometimes we can't even stop ourselves. So I think becoming aware that we're even comparing in the first place is probably number one. Stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, exactly. We talked about using that, stop sign visual. When you catch yourself saying those negative things to yourself, picture that stop sign and then rephrase it. You know, well, I'm not doing that yet.
Yes,
Just
I
that
love that.
simple addition of that little word is so powerful,
Yeah, it
and
changes the whole
can help.
meaning.
It does. It really does. It shows that you're expressing to yourself, I have the potential to do that. And that's something we don't do often enough.
Absolutely. So stop all the negative self-talk would be a big one.
Yes, for sure, for sure. We have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. And I mean, if even 1/3 of those thoughts are negative, 1/10 of those thoughts are negative, what are we doing to ourselves? We're really holding ourselves back and just beating ourselves down into the ground. And we shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah. Because then we end up believing them, and then believing them then stops our actions to, for example, apply for a job where maybe one or two or three of the qualifications we don't meet.
Right.
So
That's
one of
very
the other things that I loved exploring was you had broken it up into age groups. So from like 0 to 19, then 19 to I think it was 40, and then 41 and over. Because
yes.
I think to get to the root of your confidence issues, as you shown with this exercise, well, where did they come from in the first place? So
Right.
let's talk a little bit about that. So maybe people watching this can do this for themselves. Because I think this is a really good way to realize where it's coming from and
Yes.
whether it's even true or not.
Absolutely. So we really, throughout our lifetime, we have different experiences. Everybody's life is
Mhm.
different. Um, and the purpose of the exercise was I asked each person to record on those three different age categories something that happened to them in that age frame that affected their self-confidence. And each person was able to, write down on the flip charts in the different categories. And we saw lots of different events that
Mhm.
really affected how they felt about themselves. And much of it started in childhood, from the time
Absolutely.
you're like 0 to 18 years old. Maybe something your parents said to you. Maybe you came from an abusive or neglectful background. Maybe it was your own parents' contentious divorce. Maybe it was bullying, childhood bullying in school. Um, and then all the way up through our lives, there are things that happen to us. I mean, later in life, it could be maybe you dropped out of college,
Mhm.
maybe you got a divorce. I mean, all of these things are such a big influence on our confidence levels. And that was the purpose of the exercise to, number one, everyone share what their experiences have been, and then to illustrate that it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
It is really an ongoing thing. It starts from the time we're little, and many life events can have that impact on our own confidence.
And I think identifying those things, then you can ask yourself, well, who put this thought here? And
Right.
I think that's important too.
Yeah, absolutely. Understanding where it comes from and then figuring out, how do I move past that?
Yeah.
I shared my story that in fourth grade, I started struggling with math. And so from that point forward, I embedded in my neural pathways, I am bad at math. I will never be good at math. I can't do math. And that followed me through, you know, all the way through high school into
Yeah.
college. Um, and that was a really self-defeating thought
Hmm.
to have. I mean, maybe with a little extra help and some tutoring or and just that basic confidence, I could have
Yeah.
overcome that fear of math. So that was the story I shared, and everyone shared really interesting stories about where
Yeah.
that.
And some were similar, I would say. And when we end up talking about these things, we find out how similar some of our stories are. And I think a big thing to that is not only to recognize who it came from, if it's true, but I think forgiving yourself and forgiving the person or situation that it came from is a big part of sort of that, like, I'm going to let go of this. I forgive myself for whatever it was that happened, and I forgive the person or the thing, the event or whatever that happened. And that I think has tremendous impact moving forward, just to let go of things that you've been clearly. And that is, I think, the whole point. You're talking going back from 0 to 18. So I'm 50. So that could be 30 plus years of hanging on to something that either wasn't mine,
Right,
or I was having some kind of a guilt or needed to forgive around either myself or another party involved.
exactly. That's exactly true.
And that's, I think that can just be so powerful.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and if it means that you need to do some journaling, maybe you need to write a letter to someone that hurt you that you're never going to
Yeah.
send, but you at least have to get the words out on paper so that
Yeah.
you can move past that. Um, so there are lots of powerful things you can do to help move beyond these self-limiting beliefs that we have.
So confidence, I think, can also, you've shown, can hurt us from a health standpoint too. So
Yeah,
talk about
obviously,
that a little bit. I mean, you had your own struggles with health, but I mean, how
right.
else when we're not confident and we're constantly making ourselves small? I can't imagine how many health impacts that has on us.
Right, absolutely. We talked about the fact that it can cause anxiety,
Hmm.
depression, physical manifestations. Sure, part of my migraine issue was due to low confidence. Um, I think with my situation, I was not well, and then I wasn't able to do my job well, which
Mm.
made me even less healthy. And it was just this big ball and circle that I just couldn't get out of.
Yeah.
So it can definitely impact your health in physical and mental ways.
And it's amazing how we can hide it too,
Yeah.
because someone can look at us and think, oh, they've got it all together or they're so healthy or whatever. But a lot of times I think we hide our confidence inside of us. So
Yeah.
maybe outwardly we're appearing as one way, but
Mhm.
inside it's like, oh, like, you know what I
Right.
mean? You're just feeling all this stuff. And that must be hard too, because I know I've been there where you're projecting one thing and then you're feeling the opposite. So all day long, you're like flip flopping. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yeah, that's
Like
for sure.
crazy. And the things we do to ourselves. Oh my gosh.
I know. I know. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
And one of the things I wanted to do was by bringing my daughter, was my daughter's 21, and I want to try to I want to try to help her empower herself to have some tools in her, emotional, mental, physical toolbox, that when she comes across these things, well, how is she going to do with us? How's she going to do with it? And I know there's a big connection between your brain and your hand when you write. And that's why journaling and things like that are so important. And even just writing down these incidents. And then there was another exercise. You gave us some worksheets. So let's go over those, like just a few little tips on how they can, like some things that you could write out that might help
Right.
you move past, or even not only just move past, but even discover. Sometimes it's just a matter of discovering, like, why am I
Yeah.
so not confident with this? Sometimes we do that. I'll ask
Yeah.
myself, why am I not confident with that? I know how to do that. But it's
Right,
one
right.
little thing and it'll trip you right up.
That's for sure. Yeah. So some of the things in the workbook were, writing down 5 of your strengths.
Mm,
And maybe you can't think of 5, but ask your spouse, ask your kids, ask your colleagues. They know what your strengths are. They may
yes.
know even better than you know because we are so hard on ourselves, we don't give
Yeah.
ourselves credit. So that was the one exercise that we talked about. I also talked about keeping an accomplishment file,
Mm,
and that's something that's really powerful. I know if you wait till the end of the month or the end of the year to jot down all the things that successful things you managed or you accomplished this year, it's hard to remember. And then you look back
yeah.
at the year and you're like, I have nothing to show for it. So I recently started my own accomplishment file
That's a great
because
idea.
I had a couple really good things happen last month. And I'm like, I want to make sure I capture this. So on my days when I'm not feeling so good, I
Yes.
can pull that out and say, oh my gosh, you were recognized as this, or managed to do that. So that's a really helpful thing too. And it's a great thing to have an accomplishment file for sure.
Yeah, I think that is great that you can look back on, especially at the end of the year, as like you plan, and especially in business for entrepreneurs and business people, or even in a job, it doesn't matter. What did I accomplish? What are my goals for next year? How am I going to, adjust? What am I going to do different? And it is often hard to remember an entire 12 months. So I think that's a great idea to write it down.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And
So
it
I
helps
have,
with this. Oh,
oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. So I have maybe a tricky question for you.
Okay.
I think sometimes maybe as women, we don't appear as confident because I know myself, sometimes I equate confidence with arrogance.
Okay.
Do you find that in your confidence? Because I know you've done a lot of research, how people can mistake confidence for arrogance.
Well, I think, there certainly is such a thing as someone being overly confident. I,
Yes.
you know, I, I've met some people that are overly confident and they do come across as arrogant. But if
Yeah.
you're owning your accomplishments and you're proud of what you've done and the way you communicate that, that's what helps people not identify you as arrogant versus confident.
So it's
So
almost like an authenticity. There's like an authenticity factor to it.
that's a
But I
great
think
way to
as
describe
women, at least for me, I never want to come across as arrogant or know-it-all,
it. I
even with
know
the things that I am confident about. So it's like we're always just watching ourselves. It's so ridiculous.
we
So it's
are, we
like I
are,
know a lot about this thing, but I don't want to come off as being completely arrogant and a
right?
know-it-all. So how do I now talk
I
about this
know.
thing that I know and love in a way that exudes confidence instead of, yeah, I know that.
Yeah. We do tend to feel like, well, if I toot my own horn, they'll think that I'm,
Mhm.
arrogant. Well, that's not true. Most men don't have that fear of looking
Yeah.
arrogant when they toot their horn. So why are we different? Why do we do this to ourselves? We need to just own it, be authentic, and present it.
Yeah. And I think you did point out as well that there is a difference when it comes to men and women with confidence. And I don't think it's part of anything other than the environments that we've been raised in.
Yes,
You know
for
what I
sure.
mean? It's almost like societal that we kind
Yeah.
of feel this way. I think it's definitely going away. I know I'm, a Gen X person. So I definitely see when I started out after, I graduated college just under 30 years ago until today, I
Hmm.
see the workplace or even the work environment, owning my own business and dealing with people has changed for the better when it comes to that.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
I've often seen that I forget who said it, but there was this quote that said that women will be the one who change the world. And I think it's because we got to knock some of these men down off their pedestals. I do.
Well, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean,
Not
confidence can
all of
be
them, but a
something
lot of
that,
them.
yeah, yeah. Confidence, I mean, there are men that have confidence issues too. I just feel more passionate about being out there to help the women, because I know it's something I've struggled with throughout my
Absolutely.
career, and I want to help other women overcome some of these self-defeating behaviors and thoughts for sure. So,
And I think one thing about women is that we're always wanting to help other women. And I think that alone kind of boosts my confidence a little bit.
yeah,
Knowing that most women out there kind of have your back, even if you're sort of a rival woman, you're like, I'm still rooting for you.
yeah, exactly. And I think we've seen that in some of the networking groups that we've gotten
Mhm.
involved in recently too, here in the Lehigh
Yeah,
Valley. Um,
absolutely. Yeah,
the
I
women are
never see
very,
like this sense of competition or I'm better than you are or anything. Yeah.
yeah, it's very supportive. The women's networking groups here are very supportive.
Yeah, and hopefully where our viewers are, they can find supportive women networking events as well. And I go to both. I go to both with women only and then, with the mix. And
Mhm.
there's definitely a different vibe. One's not better than the other. You definitely just get a bit of a different vibe.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I find I'm a lot more comfortable going into an event that is only women. um, and when I go into an event that is, men and women networking together, it definitely has a different feeling,
Mhm.
and just kind of gets inside your head like, well, I don't feel like
Yeah.
this is as engaging or friendly as some of the female networking groups.
I agree. And I find most women just want to bring up other women along with them. I've come
Yeah.
across so many people, even people I've interviewed here, that their focus is on, bringing financial freedom to women and just really helping other women bring them up. And I don't even think it's a sexist thing, to be honest. I
Hmm.
think it's much more easier to identify myself in other women. It's hard to identify myself in men. So it's easier for me to identify myself in another woman and what if I've gone through the same struggle that they have gone through.
Yes, that's true for
Yeah.
sure.
So it is so interesting. All right. Well, we
Hmm.
got a little bit off topic there, but that's okay. So I want to know where people can find you and when your next event is so that they can register. And right now it's local, but I know we have a lot of local people watching. So let's get your information so we can get you out there and get so many more women confident in their everyday lives and work, business, and play and everywhere else.
Okay. And everyone can find me at www.dreamcatchercareercoaching.com, dreamcatchercareercoaching@gmail.com, and phone number is 610-663-0585. And the important thing to talk about before we close things out is,
Yeah. As
as a
long as you
career
meet.
coach, yeah, as a career coach, I mean, I run a virtual career coaching business.
Mm.
And so it doesn't really matter where you're located. If you're in Ohio or California, I've had clients as far away as California. So, with technology the way it is, I'm able to meet with
Yeah,
clients
absolutely.
virtually, and it's very easy and convenient. So, um, just keep that in mind if you're interested in any assistance with job search, LinkedIn optimization, resume updates, career exploration, anything relating to the world of work. I'm
Yes.
happy to speak with people.
And especially if you're thinking about changing careers, no matter what stage of life you're in, if you're thinking about changing careers, Shelley, you are the person to go to.
Yes, I have navigated through 5 different careers in 3 different industries. And
Yes.
I always just instinctively knew how to do it. So I really feel like this is what I need to be doing, and I'm able to help other people with career transitions, job pivots, and things like that.
Perfect. Well, don't get nervous because I'm going to put all of that information in the description so it's easy for everybody to find. So whether you're local or you're well across the country, it doesn't matter. Shelley is here to help you with your career transitions and your confidence. Well, I hope to have you back again sometime soon. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk with me because I think women's confidence is a really big issue.
It is for sure. And I really appreciate that I was able to be on with you today and talk about this topic.
Absolutely. Well, I thank everybody for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode, and don't forget to check out the description and my website at thewealthwithin.us for all the episodes and all the information from our guests. See you next time.